It is Wednesday, 8/23/2017. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And today we do have some additional stuff for the lineup. Now, previously I had a little bit of body count in the lineup, but for whatever reason I was no longer able to do that. So I had to break down and hurry up and go out and buy a copy of it. And so I did exactly that. And so I did get the latest of Body Count's albums. And so we will most likely play something off of that today. And as far as like what to cover, I'm probably going to talk a little bit about Verge today. There's been a augmentation to the BlackPaper, so I may or may not be reading that in its entirety, but I do have an interesting article here that I did want to get to, and this was from Polymath Research, and for whatever reason I just never got around to it. But we will be talking about that today. I will be reading it today. And supposedly today SegWit 2X kicks in, or some weird shit with SegWit. It's only now it seems that people are catching on to what I've been saying this whole time, as people in the upper echelons of core and whatnot are actually coming out and admitting things that I kind of suspected and suggested and whatnot this whole time. And so I wanted to read this one thing, and I'm having a little bit of trouble unburying it. I actually had it front and center here a moment ago. But yeah, anyway, so as far as what exactly we're going to talk about today, I'm not entirely certain. We might have to dive into the Twitter feed and find it. I did want to mention that Verge has been seeing some interesting action today. It's jumped above the 50-51 line and got up there above 60. So that's an interesting development. It's kind of all of the sudden, you got to take a look at your at the graph in your chart, and you can see that nice little spike up in the middle out into space there, and it's a good thing. Unfortunately, I did not go to jiu-jitsu today. It turns out that I did tear off a significant portion of my large toenail, or my toenail from my big toe, and I wanted to let it heal up a little bit better, because I can just imagine, trying to roll around on it, between bumping it and hurting it, and possibly bleeding all over the mat and all that other shit. I figured I'd kind of let it heal up, let it toughen up. I think I'm actually going to end up losing the whole toenail, but it hasn't fully expressed that way yet. So, but despite that fact, I did get a bit further on Der Greenhouse project, iteration 2. And so now I just have a bit to build on the roof, but I've got all the walls built, and so I've got to build the roof. I'll probably end up getting that done tomorrow, and probably have phase 4 completed tomorrow, and possibly on to phase 5. I have been nibbling at phase 5 a little bit, which is weeding and training, and just clearing out some of the beautiful looking weeds that ended up growing in my garden, and trying to make the area optimal just for my girls, But anyway, as threatened, we are going to be playing a little bit of Body Count. I also got some Marilyn Manson. Yeah, I ordered a shit ton of stuff from Amazon, but unfortunately not all of the albums that I ordered were available on Amazon Prime, so I only got 2 of them instantly. Anyway, as far as what to play off of the new Body Count, it's got to be, given what's been going on with all that Antifa bullshit and all that, no lives matter. That's it. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Meshuggah with Future Breed Machine. That's so hilarious. For some stupid reason, man, my program, it digs through like everything I have for some reason when when I have it look up just like regular audio files, man. It's pulling up stuff that has like an MP3 file in the back, or as like a soundtrack or something. And it's like, no, I don't want you to play that, not right now. Anywho, with regard to the Twitter feed, it's relatively barren today. I've been reading a bunch of stuff about the SegWit and the SegWit 2X and the possible conflicts that's going to cause, and it's kind of interesting watching the whole thing unfold. Kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of bored of it, honestly. It's only been about 2 years now. But I've been saying for a while now that I've expected that Lightning Network will be basically kind of a route to centralization. And this thing came across one of my ardent fans posted on Twitter this, and I thought it was relatively entertaining given my thesis that I believe Lightning Networks is basically taking us back to trust. And so so this one here it is. The Lightning Network actually seems awesome, but here a question about the fee when opening a channel. After watching a blah 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 YouTube video, I think I got a pretty good idea on how LN would work. The concept is definitely solid and will finally allow microtransactions with BTC again. What I don't get though, to open your LN channel, you have to make a BTC on-chain transaction. The fees will keep on rising in the future, with some predictions going as high as $1,000 per transaction. How then will you be able to open your channel to actually use Lightning Network? You could do so with a large sum like $10,000 that you can then use in the Lightning Network, but most people don't have that kind of money saved up. What if you just want to create a channel with $100, for example, which can still be a nice chunk of money if you live paycheck to paycheck? Wouldn't the fees eat you up? Maybe I just misunderstood how LN works. Can somebody please explain or clear this up for me? And the thing that caught my attention was the issue of subscription fee, and there was something about it on here, and I lost the goddamn thing. Anyway, I really think that Lightning Networks, the only people that are going to benefit from them are going to be big legacy finance organizations, because they'll be able to afford the insurance, they'll be able to afford the federal and state licensure in the jurisdictions they operate within, and you will not. One conceptual thing I can see an issue with there was the guy who wrote that. He seemed to be under the impression that anyone would be able to set up a Lightning Network, and from what I understand, that's not necessarily the case. The paper didn't seem to assign a specific identity to the persons that would be able to make nodes on a Lightning Network payment channel. And usually when you see something like that, I they don't say outright, that some type of miner is going to be doing this. They don't say that specifically. They say something like the community or users can, or something like that. Not a definitive statement. And so when I see stuff like that, I don't trust it. I don't trust that the person saying it is being that ambiguous without a reason. I trust that they are being ambiguous specifically because they're trying to cloak their true meaning, their intended meaning, that they're trying to deceive you. But that's just me. I think that communication is good enough between individuals, just in general English, that it should be relatively easy to communicate with one another and be very, very specific. But again, I read the paper and it did not seem to give me the impression that Lightning networks are going to be something that you are able to participate in. You'll be a user in that, you'll go to Merrill Lynch or US Bank or whatever, and they'll be running the Lightning Network payment channel. And, maybe you'll have like an ATM, a Bitcoin-backed ATM that's issued by them, and you'll be participating on their Lightning networks. But I could be mistaken. I reserve that possibility on this show because, I am just a person and people do make mistakes. And besides that, cryptocurrencies are probably one of the squirreliest industries out there as far as trying to make any definitive predictions. I mean, you can have expectations for how things are going to operate, but how they actually function in the wild and what kind of legitimate participation you have in the wild is you don't know that until you get there. So anyway, and what the hell? I got this other article here. Well, yeah, I wanted to touch on this one. This is Polymath Research, and I guess this was written by Cream. Crypto rules everything around me. Why XVG is a coin worth owning. Amidst a bubbly ICO market, a question all investors should be asking themselves is which projects have long-term fundamental value. Most of the altcoins don't solve real problems, which is why we believe uneducated investors stand to potentially lose big sums of capital in what has become an unregulated Wild Wild West ICO market, just the way we like it. Among the chaos, something truly innovative is happening. If you read the newsletter, you probably believe, or at least are interested in, crypto as a new asset class. Every investor and fund is looking for an edge in new assets, which are exploding. Even bad traders likely doubled their money this year. Actually, I did more than that, but anyway. For Polymath, we believe that that edge is truly anonymous cryptocurrency, one of these killer features of crypto. Coins like Dash and Monero have attempted to build truly anonymous coins and have attracted large amounts of capital, 1+ billion market caps. We won't get into too much detail here, but both coins have flaws, especially Monero, which has some serious shortcomings, which we may be investigating later on. Polymath believes these shortcomings open the door for a new privacy-focused coin. Enter Verge, XVG. Verge builds on Bitcoin's original vision of privacy by using multiple anonymity-centric networks such as Tor and I2P. What the Verge team is building is just as important as who is building it. The coin with the strongest engineering team and sound technological principles is going to be the winner in truly anonymous coins. The team at Verge recently released a black paper, which we may be talking about later, outlining their technology and security focus. The early progress is encouraging and is strongly aligned with our investment thesis that believe privacy is a killer feature of crypto. Outside of the obvious focus on privacy, they're focusing development efforts on expanding the potential user base by building bots for Discord, 40 million users, and Telegram, 100 million users. Check out their GitHub and roadmap to see more. And let's see, scrolling down here. Despite being fairly young, actually not really, but we won't go there, Verge's development team has already shipped a proof of concept of XVG by launching a Verge Discord bot. That means there are now 40 million Discord users that can use the Verge bot to send and receive Verge to each other. That's pretty huge. That's a pretty huge deal for esports gaming, which is projected to be a $5 to $15 billion market in the United States alone by 2020, according to Eliers and Krajcik? Krajcik Gaming Research. This momentum, backed by a growing community, is a reason why we believe Verge is definitely a coin to watch for a breakout in 2018. And disclosure, Polymath Research holds XVG along with other cryptocurrencies. Good. Well, at least they were transparent about that, right? I've long said I think that's like the one thing that's really missing from Verge. It's a shame because it's something we've had in IRC for quite a while now, where you could rain on users in the chan and stuff like that. And I felt like, if nothing else, it at least kept people talking. And in the stages that we're in with regard to cryptocurrency projects, 9 years, we are still in the infancy. And especially given the volume of import that cryptocurrencies represent, as far as the change in paradigm of the way that currency models are supposed to work. It's such a broad departure. Yeah, like I said, we're barely even scratching the surface. We've seen some leaps forward in areas where they've had a lot of economic hardship and whatnot due to artificial currency controls imposed by the governments of certain countries, India, China, and various others. But we haven't seen like the mega disruptions yet. And it's really funny because if you read any of the material from the bankers and their concerns with regard to cryptocurrencies, they are well aware of the displeasure that they could be experiencing sometime in the future with regard to people actually using cryptocurrencies to move a lot more money than they currently do. And they're starting to read it as a something that they want to try and get ahead of. And they've been doing that tentatively at least for the last 3 years. But it does seem like they're more and more they're kind of acknowledging us as a real threat to their current way of doing things. Anyway, I want to go ahead and throw down our first music break for the day. And I wanted to play some Marilyn Manson, but for some stupid reason... Oh, there it is. And this one is short and sweet. Now, I like this song a lot. And really, it's the only reason why I bought this particular Marilyn Manson album was this one song. I'm sure there are others on the album that are good, but this is the one I like the most, or at least so far. And so here it is, The Beautiful People by Marilyn Manson, here on Coin Metal. And that was Subtraction by Old School Sepultura. And as promised, we are going to dive into Verge's BlackPaper. I guess this is the second iteration of it. I did do a show a while back involving this particular document. It does not appear to be much longer, and it looks about 10 pages. I think we can chew through that and then get into a little bit of a music break afterward there. Anyway, so here we go. This is the Verge BlackPaper. Introduction. Bitcoin was developed and released in 2009 in response to an inherent flaw in the way transactions were processed on the internet. In his white paper, Nakamoto explains that, quote, commerce on the internet has come to rely almost exclusively on financial institutions serving as trusted third parties to process electronic payments. While the system works well enough for most transactions, it still suffers from the inherent weaknesses of the trust-based model. Since its original inception in 2001, Bitcoin has rapidly adopted into today's marketplaces. A primary issue with Bitcoin's rapid adoption is the increase of demand on the original blockchain to handle varying degrees of large transactions. With increased demand comes increased transactional waiting periods, and this has resulted in higher transactional fees in attempts to try and speed up transaction confirmation times. The core innovation behind Bitcoin is its decentralized structure. Unlike traditional fiat currencies, Bitcoin has no central control, no central repository of information, no central management, and no central point of failure. However, one of the challenges facing Bitcoin is that most of the actual e-services and e-businesses built around the Bitcoin ecosystem are centralized. Due to the centralized nature of the current system, e-commerce is ran by individuals in specific locations that utilize vulnerable computer systems that are susceptible to legal entanglements. Verge is one of the truly decentralized currencies available today due to its standing commitment to building off of the core fundamental values of Bitcoin while bringing an entirely new layer of anonymity to realization. 2.0 Tor integration. Tor, derived from an acronym for the original software project named the Onion Router, is an IP obfuscation service that enables anonymous communication across a layered circuit-based network. Tor directs internet traffic through a free worldwide volunteer overlay network consisting of more than 7,000 relays to conceal a user's location and usage from anyone conducting network surveillance or traffic analysis. The layers of encrypted service information used to anonymize data packets sent through Tor are reminiscent of an onion, hence the name, the Onion Router. That way, a data packet's path through the Tor network cannot be fully traced. Tor's use is intended to protect the personal privacy of users, as well as their freedom and ability to conduct confidential communication by keeping their internet activities from being monitored. Onion routing is implemented by encryption in the application layer of a communication protocol stack, nested in the layers of an onion. Tor encrypts the data, including the next node destination IP, multiple times and sends it through a virtual circuit comprising successive randomly selected Tor relays. Each relay decrypts only enough of the data packet wrapper to know which relay the data came from and which relay to send it to next. The relay then rewraps the package in a new wrapper and sends it on. The final relay decrypts the innermost layer of encryption and sends the original data to its destination without revealing or even knowing the source IP address. 2.1 Tor integration. Because the routing of communication is partly concealed at every hop in the Tor circuit, this method eliminates any single point at which the communication peers can be determined through a network surveillance that relies upon knowing its source and destination. 3.0 I2P integration. I2P was originally built to provide hidden services to allow people to host servers at unknown locations. I2P provides many of the same benefits that Tor does. Both allow anonymous access to online content, make use of a P2P style routing structure, and both operate using layered encryption. However, I2P was designed to be a, quote, network within the internet, with traffic staying contained in its borders. I2P performs packet-based routing as opposed to Tor's circuit-based routing. This provides the benefit of permitting I2P to dynamically route around congestion and service interruptions in a manner similar to the Internet's IP routing. This provides a higher level of reliability and redundancy to the network itself. And then there is a nice little diagram of how I2P transactions occur. And let's see, the first time a client wants to contact another client, they make a query against a fully distributed network database, a custom structured distributed hash table based off of the Kademlia algorithm. I guess that's the appropriate pronunciation. This is done to find the other client's inbound tunnels efficiently, but subsequent data between them usually includes that information, so no further network database lookups are required. 3.1 I2P integration. I2P is a highly obfuscated tunneling service using IPv6 that anonymizes all Verge data being sent over the network. Each client application has their I2P, quote, router build several inbound and outbound, quote, tunnels. A sequence appears that pass data in one direction to and from the client respectively. 2. In turn, when a client wants to send Verge data to another client, the application passes the message through one of their outbound channels, targeting one of the other client's inbound channels, eventually reaching the destination. Rather than relying on a centralized set of directory servers like Tor, I2P uses two distributed hash tables to coordinate the state of the network. Distributed hash tables, or DHTs, are a distributed and often decentralized mechanism for associating hash values with content. The primary advantage to DHTs are their stability. A successful decentralized P2P network requires good scalability of its services to ensure the size of content or transaction sharing can continue to grow as required. Additionally, I2P does not rely on a trusted directory service to get route information. Instead, network routes are formed and constantly updated dynamically, with each router constantly evaluating other routers. Lastly, I2P establishes two independent simplex tunnels for traffic to traverse the network to and from each host, as opposed to Tor's formation of a single duplex circuit. And then there's a nice little diagram here for how a Tor hop thing goes. Sorry, my apologies on that. 4.0 Electrum. Electrum's strength is speed and simplicity with low resource usage. It uses secure remote servers that handle the most complicated parts of the Verge network, and allow users to recover their wallets with a secret seed phrase. Additionally, Electrum offers a simple and easy-to-use cold storage solution. It allows users to store all or part of their coins in an offline manner. Moreover, Electrum is one of the only wallets to provide native Tor and I2P support. By integrating Electrum with Tor and I2P, one can achieve anonymity while using the desktop/mobile wallet. Both IP address and transaction information is secured and does not leak to the connecting servers, increasing user privacy. Electrum enables multi-signature support, which requires more than one key to authorize an Electrum transaction. Standard transactions on the Verge network could be called single signature transactions, because transactions require only one signature from the owner of the private key associated with the Verge address. An Electrum transaction with multi-signature support requires the signatures of multiple people before the coins can be transferred. Verge then requires multiple different party addresses to be provided in order to do anything with them. Quote, one Electrum wallet is on your primary computer, the other on your smartphone. The coins cannot be spent without a signature from both devices. Thus, an attacker must gain access to both devices in order to steal your coins. Key features of an Electrum wallet. Number 1. Domestic key generation. If you lose your wallet, you can recover it from its seed. You are protected from your own mistakes. 2. Instant on. The client does not download the blockchain. It requests blockchain information from a server. No delays, always up to date. 3. Locally signed transactions. Your private keys are not shared with the server. You do not have to trust the server with your coins. 4. Freedom and privacy. The Electrum server does not store user accounts. You can also export your private keys, meaning you own your address. 5.0. Multi-algorithm support. Verge is a multi-algorithm cryptocurrency that is designed to enable people with different types of mining devices to have equal access to earning coins. It is one of the only cryptocurrencies to support 5 hash functions combined on one blockchain. This results in increased security and a wider range of people and devices that can mine Verge. Hence, equal distribution of Verge is ensured for everyone. The total supply of Verge is 16.5 billion coins. What makes Verge stand out from other cryptocurrencies are the 5 proof-of-work algorithms that run on its blockchain, namely Script, X17, Lyra2 Rev2, Meyer-Grossel, and Blake2S. All 5 algorithms have a 30-second target block time. The difficulty is influenced only by the algorithm's hash rate. This allows improved security and protection against 51% attacks. 6.0. Android, Tor plus I2P. Verge sits at the foremost of innovation in the mobile cryptocurrency space. We have pioneered and developed 2 very unique and first-of-their-kind Android wallets, one of which operates exclusively on the Onion Router network and the other operating exclusively on the Invisible Internet project. That would be I2P. The Verge, Tor, and I2P wallets are built around the premise of anonymity. The wallets have no built-in ability to connect to or broadcast user information over ClearNet. Transactions are completed via simple payment verification, SPV, a technique described in Satoshi Nakamoto's paper that allows for the wallet to verify transactions through proof of inclusion, a method for verifying if a particular transaction is included in a block without downloading the entire block, similar to how an Electrum wallet functions. SPV allows for nearly instant payment confirmations because it acts as a thin client that only needs to download the block headers, which are drastically smaller than full blocks. The Verge Tor and I2P wallets also have built-in security features such as a 4-digit PIN code and biometric locking options for an added layer of physical security. Additionally, the Verge Tor and I2P wallets are able to handle P2P QR scan code transactions, or QR code scan transactions with instant verification. Clients are able to also import QR codes from paper wallets to pull balance from cold storage if required. 7.0 Future Development RSK Smart Contracts. Rootstock, or commonly referred to as RSK, is a two-way pegged sidechain that grafts smart contract functionality onto the Verge network. It also introduces an off-chain protocol for near-instant payments. RSK is an independent blockchain that does not have its own token. It instead relies on existing tokens such as Verge. RSK is able to do this by pegging or matching its smart token to Verge so that the value of an RSK token is exactly that of a Verge token. Users had the capabilities to freely move their tokens back and forth between the two chains. A smart contract works by placing a user's Verge into a type of reserve where it is locked up and then used to back the RSK token, known as Smart XVG. Think of it as putting your Verge into a checking account and then using the RSK network to spend that money. It is important to note that simple contracts have been in place for Bitcoin, which allow users... Wow, it was a tough day out there building on the greenhouse today. Pardon me there. Let's see. Simple contracts have been in place for Bitcoin, which allow users to create contracts like multisig that requires 2 or more users to sign off on a payment before it can be released. With the implementation of RSK on Verge, simple smart contracts are taken to a whole new level, with Turing-complete smart contract capabilities that will go head-to-head with Ethereum's current offerings. Another added benefit of RSK is its ability to scale. RSK currently achieves 400 payment transactions per second, which is a huge progressive leap when compared to our current standing transaction rate around 100 per second. The RSK development team has stated that the eventual goal is to push the bar even higher, with future goals to support 2,000 transactions per second using a second layer technology called Lumino. As stated in the LCTP white paper, the Lumino network is an off-chain payment system that relies on a protocol known as Lumino Transaction Compression Protocol. Gosh, I wonder if that's anything like the Lightning Network. The LTCP can be compared to the Lightning Network, a scaling solution originally designed for Bitcoin that is currently being tested on Litecoin. Wow. I just predicted it. Wow. That was interesting. 8.0 Future Development. Discord and Telegram P2P. Peer-to-peer transaction support for Telegram and Discord is currently in development and is slated to be released to the public in the month of August. Telegram is a free cloud-based instant messaging service that supports Android, iOS, Windows Phone, Windows NT, Mac OS, and Linux. Telegram uses a symmetric encryption scheme called MT-Proto. The protocol was developed by Nikolai Durov and other developers and Telegram, and is based on 256-bit symmetric AES encryption, RSA 2048 encryption, and Diffie-Hellman key exchange. Discord is a proprietary freeware VoIP application that has widespread adoption in the crypto community. Like Telegram, Discord has support on Windows, Mac OS, Android, iOS, and has a browser-accessible web client. Implementing Verge P2P capabilities on these platforms allows users to send and receive funds on the fly, no matter where they are, regardless if they have an actual wallet installed or not. Wow. Add one more layer to anonymity, huh? P2P is an online technology that allows users to transfer coins via the internet or mobile device. To do this, consumers use an online application, or in this case a bot, to designate the amount of coins to be transferred. The recipient is designated just by their username, and once the transfer has been initiated by the sender, the recipient then receives a notification to use the online bot that he has received a payment at a newly established deposit address. The user is then allowed to tweet or message the bot with a simple command, such as withdraw, and is then prompted with a set of instructions on how to receive their newly acquired Verge. This service does not require any additional information past the amount you want to send and who to send it to. No privacy information, such as IP addressing, location, name, is retained during this process. Your personal identity outside of initiating the transaction remains completely anonymous. Verge is one of the only cryptocurrencies to already offer P2P solutions for Twitter, Reddit, IRC, Slack, and Steam. These P2P offerings allow users to transfer Verge to anyone on the same social platform as them. Alright, and we're to references, we'll go ahead and read through our contributors. As an open source project, we find it very important to thank our contributors who have given us a helping hand in order for us to get to where we are today. To that we say, thank you. The author, CryptoRect, OG Verge Development Team, Soonrock, G. Franco, CryptoRect. And there's a lot of contributors on here, and I am not one of them, unfortunately. But, and I should be under marketing, man. God damn it. Because I'm like all over that stuff. Any case, there it is. That is 2.0, the Verge BlackPaper. And I'm quite impressed. The scansion is tasty. And I did not note any grammatical... Well, there was one. There was one that I remember. Other than that, it seemed like a solid read. Thank you very, very much, CryptoRect. Certainly appreciate that. Nice little graphic here on the cover for it. So anyway, there you have it. The who, the who, where, what, why, and of course why of Verge cryptocurrency. And it's not noted in this paper, but I see an increasing utility for anonymity when it comes to cryptocurrency. There's still this thing going on where, like, there's this progression towards trust in Bitcoin, or at least that seems to be the mimetic fugue that people seem to be putting out there concerning it, and how much reality there is behind that. It's entire conjecture at this point. We'll see. I've given it a 2-year timeline for the kind of changes that I expect to take place, and it's been this slow frog boil, and only now am I starting to see people on message boards saying, what? I'm gonna have to subscribe to a Lightning Network? Well, I didn't sign up for this bullshit. This isn't the Bitcoin that I signed up for. I'm starting to see that more and more in social media, and so it's good, I think, that people are starting to try and take an objective perspective on this stuff instead of just parroting one another and what some muckety-muck has to say about a certain project or a certain BIP or so on or so forth. And I think that's really important. I think that individual involvement is the best way to really understand these things and figure out how to best deal with them, And I certainly wish more people would take that level of interest in cryptocurrencies, but it's an eventual thing. When people talk about XVG going up in price or Bitcoin going up in price, these are eventual things. At some point or another, is if the forking really happens today or happened today or whatever, where we end up with a SegWit 2x chain and yet even more Bitcoin that just mysteriously jumped out of nowhere, then that'll be an interesting development. And it'll certainly affect everybody else that's currently involved. Anyway, let's go ahead and kick back down into some music, and I've been dying to play some fucking Slayer. I don't know what it is, man. Ever since I saw them live, I've had a new appreciation for them, I guess. And so let's go ahead and throw it down. Seasons in the Abyss here on Coin Metal. And that was Ministry with Lies, Lies, Lies. And there certainly are a lot of them afloat out there. And you can count on that, especially in crypto, because, well, it's about money. And what will people lie the most about? Money. Although, I don't know, it might be sex. But it's one of those things that people lie about a lot. And so I was reading through the Reddit. I got all sucked up in that with this Lightning Network. Actually seems awesome, but that business it really kind of threw me for a loop, and it seems, according to this thread, that it's pretty interesting for a bunch of other people too. It's like, surprise, there is a penis in your ass. And for some stupid reason, this is not the article that I'm starting to get pissed about, like, click stuff is fucking offensive. I want to go back to the time when, you see a link and you click on it and it goes to what you think it is, and it doesn't have a whole bunch of overlay bullshit, and it's not all impregnated with shit so that, like, when you scroll down, like, some ad, like, pops up in the middle of a fucking paragraph or something. That stuff is just offensive. It's offensive, I don't care that you are so strapped for fucking marketing capital that you have to resort to those kind of means. I mean, maybe you need to find another job. Maybe you need to do something more productive with your time. I certainly do. Anyway, on this SegWit business, I got a article here on CoinDesk. SegWit goes live. Why Bitcoin's big upgrade is a blockchain game changer. Yeah, it fucks up Bitcoin is what it does. Block 481,824. That's when SegWit will activate on Bitcoin late today or tomorrow morning, bringing the years-long debate over the contentious code upgrade to an official close. At that time, users will finally be able to take advantage of the long-promised technology. Looking back, it's important to note how long the change, perhaps the biggest ever made to the Bitcoin software, has taken. To start, the community has been embroiled in politics since SegWit was first proposed in 2015 by Bitcoin Core contributor Peter Thiel as a possible compromise to the scaling debate. And since then, basically nobody has wanted the fucking thing, and it's been fucking shoved up everybody's ass. Since then, there's been no shortage of drama. Mining firm Bitmain was accused of blocking SegWit in order to boost its revenue. Major Bitcoin companies and mining pools united behind their own scaling plan, and finally, unhappy with the plan, users equipped with gifts and branded hats responded with a kind of revolt. And that's not even the half of it. But with SegWit soon to be guaranteed, today marks the first day it will be usable on Bitcoin. Here are the key things that SegWit enables. Number 1, it rearranges how data is stored in Bitcoin blocks, making transaction malleability much easier. Number 2, it boosts capacity while remaining compatible with various versions of the software, except for the ones without SegWit. Number 3, it removes transaction bullshit. It doesn't remove transaction malleability. It says it removes transaction malleability, but you know what? If you read the fucking paper, it doesn't say it removes transaction malleability problem. It doesn't say that at all. It says the transaction malleability problem, which can be addressed one of two ways. It could suggest that transaction malleability is a big issue in Bitcoin transactions. Personally, I've conducted many Bitcoin transactions. I have yet to have a single one of them malleated. So that's one issue, or that's one way to take it. But there's another way to take it. See, if the fact that you can't malleate the transactions in the way that you want to, as it currently stands, is a problem for you, you could talk about it by saying the transaction malleability problem. It's not that there's an actual problem with transactions being malleated. It's that you can't malleate the transactions the way you want to. So that's my take on the memetics here. And again, read the segregated witness white paper. It does not say this explicitly solves transaction malleability. It talks about the malleability problem and its way to address it, which is to take the addressing. I'm not even going to go into it. Take the information that they want to malleate and stick it on the outside of the fucking encrypted block, basically, so that they can malleate it without having to decrypt the entire block. Eliminating the roadblock. The final point is what might have been the most lasting impact. Indeed, many developers believe SegWit will boost the development of more forward-looking technologies necessary for Bitcoin's mainstream use. The best known is the Lightning Network, first proposed in a 2015 white paper, oddly enough about the same time as SegWit. It's almost like it was planned, don't you think? White paper by Joseph Poon and Taj Drija. The idea is payment channels that move transactions off the blockchain could boost Bitcoin's capacity to millions of transactions per second. But the project has grown in scope considerably since its 2015 ideation. working under the assumption that SegWit would eventually activate on Bitcoin, a handful of developers have built active Lightning Network implementations, and they're now working to ensure that all of them work with one another. We're gonna check out that. And since the Lightning Network is now possible on two major cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and Litecoin developers are also planning on using the network to create a new type of trustless trading between the two. It's also possible that these tools could potentially eradicate the need for cryptocurrency exchanges, which have been under scrutiny recently for messing up at the expense of cryptocurrency users. And other projects that need, or at the least, work better than SegWit capability are well underway too. Work better with SegWit capability are well underway too. The developers preparing for SegWit activation have been working on Mast, which enables more complex Bitcoin smart contracts, Schnorr signatures, which would enable another transaction capacity boost, and Tumblebit, an anonymous top-layer network. Continuing politics. And while SegWit looks to enable a bright future for Bitcoin, it doesn't exactly bring an end to the debate, and politics have mired the community for years. Some Bitcoin users still believe SegWit is the wrong choice. Actually, the vast majority of us believe it is the wrong fucking choice. Fuck you. And they are so adamant about this that they forked the Bitcoin blockchain, creating a new version entirely. No, we didn't. We kicked you the fuck off. And now you're doing SegWit coin and we're doing Bitcoin, quote, cash. Called Bitcoin Cash, the blockchain eliminates SegWit in favor of other scaling tech. Yeah, it makes bigger blocks, what we've needed this entire fucking time. Now Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash are competing, putting two ideologies to the test, with real money on the line. The questions being asked now are, which cryptocurrency has the best technical roadmap? Which will attract the most users and attention, and which will remain the most decentralized? Or do both of them have merit? While answers to these questions are uncertain, one thing is for sure. With SegWit activating today, the community is one step closer to determining whether its scaling capabilities are all they were touted as. No, they weren't. They were lied about. Lied about. Censored, blocked, shadow banned, lied about. And the fact of the matter is that the oh, I love this. The first quote on here is from To Venture. After SegWit, unfortunately, mempool still high, fees high, $4 to $6. Those fees could buy us Lisk, EOS, Steam, 10x. Yeah. Anyway, so I think that a blog says would have increased this in 2015. Now we have 2 Bitcoins, maybe another on the way, and BTC hash rate is tanking. Yep. Good. Personally, I think that SegWit coin will come to represent a minority chain after more is revealed about exactly what it does. See, as we get closer to, all the implementation of this off-chain bullshit and all that other stuff, more is being disseminated out to the public exactly what this does and whatnot. And I'm really surprised that it's taken as long as it has. But one of the reasons why I was stuck on that Reddit Bitcoin thing was that a lot of the sentiments that I was reading there are in line with my perspective. They're not exactly saying it in the same way, but they're seeing the potentials for monopolies and trust being forcibly reintroduced into our transactions via this SegWit/Lightning Network business. See, I don't think it's a coincidence that they were both introduced in 2015. I think they were both part of one another. And that to some extent there was probably already viable software already ready. Because, I mean, think about the timing. 7 years after Bitcoin was first brought out. So that's more than enough time for bankers to have become aware of us, constructed a strategy for trying to deal with us, and here it is. And this is just one prong of a multi-prong attack. You know, I posit that on the other side of this is, you know, they're trying to change the fundamental way that Bitcoin works. And in the longer term, you're going to need to be using a Lightning Network in order to conduct Bitcoin transactions. Well, they're already ahead of that curve with regard to the authorship of legislation. Okay? And it made it clear to me really, really early. As a matter of fact, when I read BitLicense, I understood what they were going to do. And at the time, as a matter of fact, if you can find the episode where I read BitLicense, I said money transmitter. I didn't understand how money transmitter was going to fit into everything. But now, you know, 2 years later, we have this Lightning Network business, and when you read that shit, the Lightning node network operators will be able to do the kinds of things that are listed in the money transmitter legislation or the money transmitter segment of BitLicense, as well as California shit license. See, they planned to be able to have this rolling on the ground and rolling by 2016. It hasn't happened yet, and it still hasn't really happened. You know, it's like this article indicates, you know, now that there's Bitcoin Cash, we can have everything that we had in quote-unquote Bitcoin, except with bigger blocks, which is exactly what we needed all along. And there have been some issues along the way, but you know what? To the people that harp on all the little technical issues that Bitcoin Cash has had, understand this. Its launch has gone a lot cleaner and a lot more successfully than Bitcoin's original launch. And you know, you can scoff and point at it right now when it has its little failings here and there, its little glitches here and there. But the same thing can be said for 2, maybe 300 of the cryptocurrencies that are in circulation right now, if not a higher percentage of them. You know, that they all go through these issues. And the key is, are they still standing at the end of it? That is the key. If they are still standing, 'cause, like Verge, okay? Verge wasn't even always Verge, but it's survived through some pretty significant shit. You know, we were having some network issues, and the multi-algo approach was actually the answer for it. And we haven't had that issue since. But the point being that there isn't a single cryptocurrency that was written, launched, and operated exactly as designed from the get-go. There isn't a single one. So, you know, to all the people that are pointing and scoffing in Bitcoin Cash, continue to point and scoff. And when it isn't dead next year, you can continue to point and scoff. And by then, I will be relatively rich in it. And the year after that, when it isn't gone, you can continue to point and scoff, but I'll be even richer off of it. I mean, the first mover advantage didn't end with Bitcoin, I still find it really surprising that people in cryptocurrencies, they seem to, there's some segment that seems to think, all right, we're here. We don't have to go any further. We got over the hurdle. We eliminated a lot of cruft and a lot of officiousness and bureaucracy out of transactions. So, we can go ahead and just stop right here. Everything's cool. We don't need to go any further. All the development that's been needed has been done. We can just go ahead and start using the technology now. And don't worry about the fact that you're going to be using it directly through US Bank or Goldman Sachs. Don't worry about that. We can just use it now. It's like they think that the world is going to just drop anchor and coalesce with them. That 16-year-old kids that just got exposed to this shit aren't thinking up their own variant of Bitcoin that they're going to launch anonymously, just like Satoshi Nakamoto. And what the fuck are you going to do then? Because that's not planned for. That's not your solidified roadmap. But it fucks everything up because that kid's software happens to be really popular. Like I said, it blows me away. Really, it does. I guess it's because we live in a society that has the idea that permanence can exist. So deeply rooted in it, that because of that, it's like we just keep running into that mimetic hurdle, and not being able to see past it. I don't know. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down a little bit of music. I want to do something off 0 days. I've been feeling the need here. And what the hell? The Whispers. No, I played that last time. Which is the one that I really, really, really like? I don't know. I like this whole album. I've got to be honest. Reasons to be Fearful. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Meshuggah with Bleed. Well, I can be thankful of one thing at least. The program I'm using, it picks good music occasionally. And fortunately, something we haven't already played. And so anyway, I got a couple articles left here. I wanted to kind of... Oh, yeah, this one seemed kind of interesting, but I wanted to touch back on this other one because I definitely have to get rid of it. It keeps reloading and reloading and reloading and reloading and reloading. So I had to make sure I can get rid of this fucking thing quick. But I want to make sure that it isn't actually attached to another website with another story on it. It's not, fortunately. And this is on CoinDesk. Bitcoin's Lightning Network takes a big step towards interoperability. And this is October 18th, 2016 by Alyssa Hertig. The development of a key Bitcoin scaling solution has been fragmented to date, but that could soon change. Major developments behind the Bitcoin Lightning Network major developers behind the Bitcoin Lightning Network met last week in Milan to determine how to work the micropayment layer how work on the micropayment layer will advance, and how the varied efforts will progress to be standardized. In total, representatives from 6 projects attended, with those involved calling it a culmination of efforts that have taken place since the technology was first proposed in 2015. According to organizers, the idea behind the meeting was to design rules for every implementation to follow, so that the currently fragmented projects of which there are at least 8 following their own designs, can ultimately be made interoperable. Prior to the meeting, Lightning Labs co-founder Elizabeth Stark said the loose group had largely cinched up over a series of bi-weekly phone calls and over technical discussion on the Lightning Network mailing list. Stark told CoinDesk, "Without proper in-depth conversations, there might be incompatibilities and different ideas. We want all implementations to talk to each other and to work with each other." Other participants provided details on how information would be shared as work progresses, with some suggesting early versions of Lightning could be ready for use by the year's end. For example, Blockstream core tech engineer Christian Decker indicated he feels confident development can now continue toward its goals as a result of the meeting. "We managed to nail down all the details needed to interoperate. This concludes the initial exploratory phase, and we can now move forward combining all the lessons learned," he said. The highly anticipated top layer for the Bitcoin network is designed to boost transaction capacity and speed, hence Lightning, in a way that developers say follows Bitcoin's original value proposition, a digital currency that doesn't require users to rely on intermediaries. Except for fucking Lightning network operators, you fucks! Lying sacks of shit! Widely considered to be the method by which Bitcoin will scale without increasing the throughput of its blockchain, the Lightning Network has also been criticized by those that support on-chain methods of scaling. Like bigger fucking blocks, what's been needed this whole fucking time. The decisions. And you know, we might actually... Let me right-click on criticized, because I'd like to follow that down, to see if anybody else shares my perspective on this business. Described at length in the blog post, the group made several decisions about protocol compatibility, what Lightning Network architect Joseph Poon called, quote, critical core protocol, and ultimately decided how each implementation should work in the future. These specifications include a, quote, core commitment protocol, which will determine how micropayment channels between 2 users are updated. The Lightning Network hinges on a cryptographic method called hash time lock contracts, which ensures payments on the network cannot be stolen by intermediaries. Now, I want to take just a brief step back here. At the end of here we go. Let's reread this paragraph right here. The highly anticipated top layer for the Bitcoin network is designed to boost transaction capacity and speed, hence Lightning, in a way that developers say follows Bitcoin's original value proposition, a digital currency that does not require users to rely on intermediaries. Now, follow me here. Note the lack of P2P in that phrase, in that little snippet there. a digital currency that doesn't require users to rely on intermediaries. Doesn't require users to rely on intermediaries. Alright? And so here we go right here. Now, why do I need hashed time lock contracts which will ensure payments on the network cannot be stolen by intermediaries if Lightning Network follows the original intent of people being able to do peer-to-peer transactions without the need for an intermediary? The two are entirely incompatible. Continuing on. One specific discussion was to include a two-stage HTLC scheme proposed by Mats Gerac, who is working on blockchain's Thunder implementation, whatever the fuck Thunder is. We might look in that too. The group also discussed specifications for a basic routing protocol for how payments will ultimately hop across the network and several other implementation details. These include a format for scrambling the communications between nodes for privacy and a format for outsourcing how channels will be monitored for fraud so this responsibility does not fall to users. You've got to be fucking kidding me. Why does it need to be monitored for fraud? See, if it was happening on chain, then I wouldn't need... I mean, if we're calling for outsourcing how channels will be monitored. Okay, so now we're going to trust how they're monitored for fraud. So there's the possibility that this person could be bribed to overlook when fraud is actually being observed occurring. Give me a fucking break. Back to fucking trust. That's where they want to go. Back to fucking trust. Progress ahead. So far, the group is planning to solicit feedback from the rest of the Bitcoin community before finalizing the specifications and testing the compatibility of the implementations over the next weeks. Why bother? You haven't fucking listened to us yet. We've been telling you no for the last 2 fucking years, and yet here we are with your shitware being forcibly introduced into Bitcoin. So again, why does our fucking opinion matter whatsoever? Why are you even bothering to ask us? You already got your fucking implementations that you plan to just fucking stuff up our ass at your leisure. Give me a break. Quote, for me personally, the fact that all teams came to similar conclusions and solutions is a sign that we're on the right track. Now we continue to work on writing a joint specification and adapting the implementations to that specification, Decker said. Meaning we've already got it planned. We've got kind of a spaghetti version between what we've sold everybody it's going to be and what its actual function is. And so now we've just got to finalize it. And we won't bother to change the names on everything to describe better what it actually does. We'll leave it at the names that we told everyone it was, so they won't question it when it just gets stuffed up their ass. Anyway, continuing. Elsewhere, representatives expressed the idea this update is a sign. Expressed the idea that this update is a sign that work on more advanced Bitcoin technologies continues to move forward. Give me a fucking break. Valery Vavilov, CEO of Bitfury Group, for example, was keen to cite the progress made by the scaling solution event as a whole, which saw a number of technological proposals presented and critiqued and served as a meeting place for lightning discussions. Vavilov told CoinDesk, "We feel that the event in Milan was an important step forward for the global adoption of Bitcoin and blockchain for our community and for the Lightning Network overall." Now, I'd like to address one thing in this last sentence. The Lightning Network overall. Now, see, when somebody talks about something like that, it seems to me like they're talking about an existing network of nodes. Okay? Now, that kind of takes out this idea that, somehow or another, I'm going to be able to open up. I'm going to be able to open up a Lightning Network payment channel with $100 in it, and all. No. The Lightning Network already exists. You might be able to open up a channel with $100, but it's going to be on somebody else's shit. It's not going to be on your shit. You're not going to be attaching a Bitcoin transaction to the main Bitcoin chain and doing your own little Lightning Network thing. No. The Lightning Network already exists, according to her. And for the Lightning Network overall. Yeah. You fucking people are being bamboozled. And willingly so. It's really funny to me. But, again, these ideas are being conveyed to us through another third-party intermediary. That being CoinDesk. And they have their own little interests, too. So, we can't really trust them to be really objective. But yeah, here we are with Thunder, but there was something else we were gonna look at here, and I mistook it because of the date on it. But then I reflected on the fact that we're talking about subject matter that's been rumbling around in the background of Bitcoin since 2015. And this is a different article. It says, "Why wait?" Spelled WEIGHT. Bitcoin scaling is moving beyond block size. And this was written on October 9th, 2016 by Pete Rizzo. "We were all busy arguing about the block size, but everything else is crucial." That statement from Cornell's Emmingen Searer. I haven't heard much from that guy recently. May have come in the middle of the second and final day of the Scaling Bitcoin Conference, but it was perhaps the overriding theme of the latest edition of the Digital Currency Network's Developer Summit. Despite the public visibility of a protest event scheduled in parallel with the conference, the content of this year's event did much to showcase that for many developers, the block size is no longer a significant factor in discussions about how the network should increase capacity. Over the course of both days, talks largely moved on to more incremental discussion of the various, quote, trade-offs that should be considered when making changes to Bitcoin's basic components and the complex ways they interact. Bitcoin core developer Eric Lombrazzo told CoinDesk, "All engineering requires trade-offs." No, it doesn't. "We're trying to figure out the range of possibilities and what trade-offs are more preferable." Go fuck yourself. Still, Lombrazzo acknowledged that the block size and the pronounced public feud over whether to change the hard-coded limit to the number of transactions Bitcoin can process with each batch of transactions remains a, quote, cultural phenomenon. one its technical community is still trying to move forward from as it navigates a market now dominated by blockchain solutions. The day's talks provided a deeper explanation of this subtle change in thinking, with Blockstream principal architect Christopher Allen noting that the social consensus of developers has deemed the block size a non-issue. Yeah, because their whole idea is to operate with 1 fucking megabyte. Quote, I think it is very clear that the previous conference, which debuted SegWit, that there's now a rough consensus of how things are going. The technical community is already a few steps beyond that, he explained. Blockstream's Greg Sanders emphasized the argument in his morning talk centered on lessons he hopes the community takes away from progress on segregated witness, a planned soft fork, no it's not, that will change how transactions are stored by the network and that continues to inch toward implementation. Let's stop talking about the block size. Let's talk about weight. The weight of a transaction, the weight of a block, the externalities it puts on the system. Let's talk about throughput. And just a side note on throughput, with regard to this guy's statements here, when Bitcoin first came around, my understanding of the limited throughput was to dissuade the use by banks and legacy financiers. The 7 transactions per second was to make them say, okay, if we're going to do something that we need to transact faster, we're going to have to do that shit off chain. But no, these assholes want to make it your problem to do that. Anyway, continuing. Let's talk about throughput. We can put more information in small spaces, so let's look at these problems, Sanders said. Put more flatly, Blockstream's Jorge Timon said the block size is simply not an interesting topic. Social fork. Yet while Timon spoke for the majority of attendees surveyed, a vocal minority was still represented at the conference in full force. A development organizing committee member Pindar Wong called a social fork. Investor Roger Ver, a vocal proponent for larger blocks, held a, quote, free speech party on the night of the first event. Attracting roughly 20 guests to a nearby hotel, the event saw the screening of proposals that were rejected from the Scaling Bitcoin conference, as well as discussion on why capacity should be dramatically increased to accommodate more users. A sentiment I agree with. That meeting emphasized discussion of a proposal for X-thin blocks, as well as work by researchers to prove how larger Bitcoin blocks, as enabled by an alternative protocol called Bitcoin Unlimited, could be executed on the network without increasing the time it takes for the data from those blocks to reach nodes and miners located around the globe. Also voiced were reasons why the initiative should have been considered by the Scaling Bitcoin conference, as well as fears that an alternative digital currency could overtake Bitcoin's market position. Further, attendees criticized the conference's approach as one that was, quote, not data-driven, while top-level Bitcoin scaling initiatives like Lightning were dismissed as, quote, vaporware, which to my knowledge they still kind of are. Bitcoin Unlimited's Jerry Chan, who spoke during and attended both events, said he believes the decision to exclude the talk was due to a desire to avoid contention at all costs. Quote, I think that some of the talks that were excluded would have been very useful because they directly address issues that were brought up in the past, he said. Perhaps most notable, however, was who the protest event attracted. Major mining sector representatives were in attendance, including Bitmain's Jihan Wu and via BTC's Haipo Yang. Incremental changes. Elsewhere, the theme of the day's talks centered around smaller changes that could be made to the network and the sometimes intricate side effects they may have on Bitcoin at large. For instance, Blockstream's Peter Wheel gave a talk on Schnorr signatures and how they compare to the elliptic curve digital signature algorithm Bitcoin uses to ensure funds are spent by their owners. Still, the talk highlighted just how much work would need to happen should even this small tweak in Bitcoin's gears be considered. Schnorr signatures are not a standard. ECDSA is a document that exactly specifies all the math that needs to happen, Wheel said. Schnorr is a general idea. With Schnorr signatures, Wheel presented how the concept is now enabled by SegWit and how it could require only one signature for transactions with multiple inputs, and that only this signature to be sent across the network for the transaction. However, he noted how Bitcoin's address structure posed a problem for the change, as did new potential attack vectors, leading him ultimately to call for more academic work on the idea. Yet another talk, which looked at the performance of proof-of-work blockchains, saw a comparison of block propagation on the Bitcoin network and other alternative blockchains. Here, presenter Arthur Gervais of Ethereum Zurich reviewed how simulations conducted at the Swiss university showed the time between Bitcoin blocks, currently set for roughly 10 minutes, could be reduced to 1 minute while enabling 60 transactions per second safely. That's not to say that big ideas were not discussed. Some proposals saw prominent developers, including Peter Todd and David Vorick, overviewed radically new ways to rethink how Bitcoin could work. Particularly notable was Todd's talk on scaling via client-side validation. Here, Todd posed the question of whether miners were needed to validate transactions at all, questioning how redefining their relationship with nodes, a fundamental building block, could lead to better scalability. Wow. Neat. Quote, "You can say to miners, validating is kind of an optimization. It does have some interesting social effects. I can create this rule and a Litecoin and Bitcoin can exist on the same system," Todd theorized. Academic mindshare. Yet, there was a sense that Bitcoin's emphasis on fundamentals is perhaps frustrating to academics intrigued by how it could solve larger issues. For example, Sirer's talk on an update to his Bitcoin Vault proposal, which covenants would be added to transactions as a way to restrict the risk they could be executed a malicious actor in the event of a theft. Okay. By a malicious actor in the event of a theft. In a Q&A session, the idea was met with more pointed questions. There was particular disagreement acknowledged in the talk by Sirer about how this would compromise the fungibility of individual bitcoins or the property by which any one bitcoin can be exchanged for another. However, Sirer called for a willingness to accept perhaps imperfect solutions to the negative side effects. Oh, God damn you. At the end of the day, fungibility is already not protected by any in-protocol mechanism. It's protected by the social contract that we must have fungibility, he said. In comments, visiting academic Brian Ford of École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lassagne noted he would have liked to have seen more examples of, quote, significant improvements. A self-proclaimed, quote, outsider, Ford questioned how much he would continue to invest in the community given that narrow focus. As such, the comments point to the divisions that could be forming around the Bitcoin community, even as it tries to put more contentious scaling debates in the past. However, Ford at least acknowledged progress has been made, adding, "It's good that it's at least diversified beyond block size." Pfft, okay, whatever. So, yeah, you hear some echoes of some of the lesser likely things to take place, like Litecoin and Bitcoin transactions happening on the same network or the same chain. Supposedly that there are people like really close to that, or it's close to happening, or some shit like that. And I don't know. I have my own reservations about it. I think that soon enough, what'll end up happening is that tokens that supposedly represent an underlying value of or volume of other tokens will be traded as the tokens themselves or counted as the tokens themselves for a matter of convenience or a matter of intended fraud or whatever. But ultimately what will end up happening is that the underlying value will end up being non-existent or will drop in value suddenly, and all of the tokens that were suspended on it will also drop dramatically in value. And so the offset for whatever it was that they were tied up in, say they tied up a whole Bitcoin worth of value or some shit like that, or a whole Bitcoin, the whole Bitcoin would be gone. It would be locked into this thing, and whoever cashed out, there's so much potential for abuse with this shit. And why people are only now starting to see that and starting to see the potential for monopolies and their exclusion from segments of the Bitcoin topology, I find it really surprising, because there are very, very, very smart people involved in this stuff. And I can only imagine that, like, the only reason they're only starting to see it now is because they've been so nose to the grindstone involved in their own projects and shit that they just haven't had time to look up at it and see what the overall picture is actually morphing into around them. Now, I'm not surprised by any of this shit. I'm not surprised by any of it at all. Because the fact of the matter is the underlying memetics have been fed to us slowly over time. Slowly being fed to us. They're talking about standardization. Where in all of that is you? Where are you crafting your own BIPs or your own coins or your own standards or your own Lightning Network implementations? Where are you? You're not in that fucking room. You're not in Milan. You're not represented there. But these people are making decisions for you. How shit will operate or it just won't operate on their network. Oh, it will be, according to our standard for ECDSA or whatever the fuck. And if it's not compatible with that, it won't work on our network. That's what they're saying to you. And where is the community then? Is it a bunch of fucking banks? Is it a bunch of legacy financiers that have licensed us all out of everything else? That's where I think that they want to take us. A lot of people bought into the fruit punch being doled out by some of the talking heads in cryptocurrency and some of the bigger thinkers and the people represented as core and all that. And it's unfortunate because they've allowed themselves to be lulled into complacency, not really watching the ball, seeing how the game is really going. You know, they're concentrated on their role in one specific play, and they're not looking at the greater game. You know, they're not even really concerned whether they're on offense or defense at the moment. You know, because they're so convinced by that Kool-Aid that, hey, you know, banks will never get a hold of this. Banks will never take this over. Governments will never be able to take this away from people. Yeah, whatever. The only aspect of that whole pie in the sky shit that I imagine will be true is that some iteration of cryptocurrencies will be circulated privately between individuals outside the knowledge of everybody else that is not represented in it. Now, this will not be the vast majority of transactions, and they will be hounded like the witches of old who were burned at the stake during the Inquisition. But it will still exist. And given the rate of descent of the global economy, I think there's a really good chance that it'll end up being the basis for the new thing. I don't know. Well, I'm looking at an interval between 2 and 5 years where we're going to see a radical transformation in the global economy, because more and more value is going to be moving into places like cryptocurrencies. And it's going to go out of the broader economy. And that's going to impact a lot of people negatively. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. It's been a long episode for me. I mean, dude, I spent a long day out there in the garden. And I did get in a short workout, but you know, enough to get the old heart pumping, keep the cardio engaged. But yeah, we will be back again on Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And unfortunately, I don't actually have a Last Dance programmed in. So planning, you know, I gotta plan just a little better on here. Anyway, so we will be back on Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want you to trade safe. I want you to do your homework, because a lot of people don't seem to be doing your homework and are only now starting to catch up. And I want you to watch out for your own bunghole, because I assure you, there are people trying to get access to it. Anyway, let's go ahead and close it out with a little bit of old school Megadeth here, The Conjuring, here on Coin Metal. Night, and thank you very much for listening.